Fear has a way of building invisible walls, quiet, heavy barriers that grow day by day until a person stops realizing how much of the world they've shut out. For some, those walls are made of past hurts. For others, they're built from silence, judgment, or the terrifying uncertainty of stepping into the unknown. But sometimes, all it takes is a single moment, one act of courage, one extended hand, for those walls to begin to crack. And that is where this story begins. Armin Malik had always lived a life measured by caution. He was not timid, nor weak, nor lacking in ability. His fear came from a moment years ago that he never spoke about. A moment that left him believing that reaching out to others brought only pain, never healing. He lived quietly in a small apartment above an old bakery, working as a repair technician, speaking only when necessary, and keeping his world as controlled as possible. Safety, for Armin, was in routines, in predictable days, in a life untouched by surprises. But the world has a way of placing us exactly where we're needed, even when we resist. Every morning, when Armin walked to work, he passed an old community park. It had once been filled with children, families, and bright laughter, but now it sat neglected, rusted swings, faded paint, and benches worn by time. Yet even in its forgotten state, one thing always caught his attention: a young girl, no more than 10, sitting alone on the far bench, her hands wrapped around a little sketchbook. She drew quietly every day, her face half hidden behind long braids, her posture small yet steady. And each time Armin passed, he noticed the same thing: her eyes, always scanning the park, always watchful, as if waiting for something or someone who never arrived. One morning, as he hurried through the park, he heard a faint sound, a soft sob, the kind that slips out despite someone's best effort to hold it in. He froze. His instinct was to keep walking. He didn't involve himself in strangers' lives. He didn't offer comfort. He didn't know how. But something inside him nudged him to turn. The girl on the bench had her head bowed and her shoulders trembling. The sketchbook lay open in her lap, and the page was smeared where tears had fallen. Armin hesitated, every muscle in his body tense. "Don't get involved," a familiar voice whispered. "You don't know her. You don't know what to say." But his feet moved anyway. When he approached, he stopped a careful distance away. Are you all right?" he asked, his voice quieter than he expected. The girl startled and quickly wiped her face. "Sorry," she said, embarrassed. "I didn't mean to cry. I'm fine." "Really?" It was the universal phrase of someone who was not fine at all. Armin's hands felt cold. He didn't know how to comfort children, he barely knew how to comfort himself. But he noticed the drawing on the page, a picture of a woman with gentle eyes and a soft smile, holding the hand of the girl who sat alone on the bench. "That's nice," he said awkwardly, pointing at the sketch. "She's my mom," the girl whispered. Armin nodded, sensing the heaviness in her voice. "Is she?" "She passed away last year." The words hit him like a quiet blow. He wanted to say something, anything, but every phrase felt like it would crumble before it left his mouth. "I'm sorry," he finally said. The girl nodded, and her eyes drifted back to the empty space beside her on the bench. "She used to sit here with me. She loved drawing. She said the world always made more sense on paper." There was a silence between them, not sharp or uncomfortable, just tender. "What's your name?" he asked. "Isla." "I'm Armin." She looked at him for the first time, really looked, and something in her expression softened. "You pass here every day," she said. "You always walk fast. I thought maybe you didn't like the park." He almost laughed, not because it was funny, but because he realized how much of his anxiety had been visible to a child. "I guess I just hurry a lot," he said. "Mom used to tell me to slow down," Isla murmured. "She said the world isn't going anywhere." Armin didn't know when he last heard wisdom so simple yet so profound. As he stood there, he felt a shift, a quiet internal stirring that surprised him. It was the first time in years he had spoken to someone without feeling overwhelmed. Maybe it was the innocence of her words. Maybe it was the gentle presence she carried despite her grief. Or maybe it was the strange way her sadness mirrored something buried inside him, something he had spent so long avoiding. The next day, he found himself walking slower. And the day after that, he found himself stopping by the bench again. Isla greeted him each time with a small wave or a shy smile. She always had her sketchbook, and after a few days, she began showing him her drawings, tiny worlds she'd created in pencil and color. Armin found himself looking forward to those moments, the quiet conversations, the glimpses into her imagination. One morning, he noticed her drawing something new, two figures sitting on a bench. One was Isla. The other was him. "You're drawing me?" he asked, startled. She nodded. "I draw people who make me feel safe," she said softly. The word struck deep. Safe. Him? He didn't know how he could possibly deserve that. But Isla wasn't wrong, something in him had changed, subtly but undeniably. The fear that once dictated his every step began loosening its grip. He found himself speaking more, breathing more, feeling more. One afternoon, when he reached the park, he found Isla's sketchbook abandoned on the bench. Panic surged through him. He looked around and spotted her a few meters away, standing frozen near the slide while a group of older boys surrounded her. They weren't hurting her, but they were teasing her, mocking her drawings, grabbing pages from her sketchbook, tossing them in the air like fallen leaves. Armin felt something ignite inside him, a protective instinct he didn't know he still possessed. His heart pounded. His hands trembled. A familiar fear threatened to pull him back. "Don't get involved," the old voice whispered. But Isla's terrified eyes broke through the fear. Before he could think, he found himself walking forward, his voice firm. "Enough," he said. The boys turned. For a moment, Armin felt that old panic rise again. But he didn't back down. "Give the drawings back," he said, more steadily this time. "Now." Something in his gaze must have shown the boys he wasn't going to move. They hesitated, then shoved the papers back toward Isla before mumbling insults and wandering off. Isla rushed to gather the scattered pages, her hands shaking. Armin knelt beside her and picked up the last few drawings. She looked at him with wide, grateful eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Armin swallowed hard. "You don't deserve to be treated like that," he said. "And your drawings, they're beautiful. Anyone who makes you feel small because they can't appreciate beauty, they're the ones who are afraid." "Afraid," she echoed. "People hurt others when they're scared of their own emptiness," he said quietly. Isla nodded slowly, as if storing those words in a special corner of her heart. They sat together on the bench again. But this time, something felt different. The bench didn't just hold a child grieving her mother and a man running from his past. It held two souls who had unknowingly begun to heal each other. "Armin," Isla asked after a long silence. "Why were you scared when you came here the first time?" He stiffened. Isla didn't ask with judgment, only concern. "You don't have to tell me," she said quickly. "I was just curious." Armin looked at the ground. He had spent years avoiding the memory. But the warmth in Isla's voice gave him a strange kind of courage. "Someone I cared about needed help once," he said slowly. "I reached out, but I wasn't enough. And after that, I thought, maybe it's better not to reach at all." Isla listened with the quiet attentiveness only a child with deep understanding could offer. "But you helped me today," she said gently. Armin felt something unravel inside him, a tight knot he had carried for too long. "Yeah," he whispered. "I guess I did." "Then maybe you were enough," she said. "At least now." Her simple words lit a warmth in his chest, soft, steady, and unexpectedly healing. Days turned into weeks. Their friendship deepened in ways neither of them had anticipated. Armin found himself smiling more, speaking more, existing more. Isla grew more confident, sharing stories of her mother and filling her sketchbook with drawings of new memories, ones they created together. One morning, Armin arrived at the park to find that Isla had drawn something new, a picture of a hand reaching out toward another hand, both surrounded by light. Under it, she wrote in small, neat handwriting. "Sometimes one hand is all it takes to remind someone they're not alone." Armin felt his eyes sting. "This is beautiful," he whispered. "It's us," she said softly. "You reached out when you didn't have to. And that helped me reach too." Armin looked at her, at the hope in her eyes, and realized something profound. Isla had not just healed a small part of his life, she had given him the courage to step beyond fear. He reached out his hand, tentatively but willingly. Isla smiled and placed her small hand into his. In that moment, two broken, healing hearts shared the same quiet truth. Fear builds walls. But kindness, simple, human kindness, breaks through them. And sometimes, the hand that reaches beyond fear doesn't just change one life. It transforms two.